Welcome to our show, Hong Kong Brief. In today's news, we start with the sad news of William Anders, the former Apollo 8 astronaut who captured the iconic Earthrise photo in 1968, has tragically died in a plane crash at the age of 90. This photograph is credited with sparking the global environmental movement by changing how humans viewed our planet. Anders' legacy will forever be remembered through this monumental contribution to space exploration and environmental awareness. Next up, we delve into the story of Chinese diaspora activists who are mobilizing in solidarity with Palestine. They are highlighting the connections between China's and Israel's security measures. These activists argue that the struggles against oppression in China and Palestine are interconnected, drawing parallels to the Tiananmen Square protests. This movement aims to break the ties between China and Israel while shedding light on the shared fight against oppression. Finally, we celebrate a century of connection with the Johor-Singapore Causeway, which marked its 100th anniversary on June 28. Known as the busiest international border crossing in the world, this 1 km long embankment has facilitated trade, employment, and tourism between Malaysia and Singapore, significantly impacting the region's development. From its economic benefits to its role in shaping societal interactions, the causeway remains a vital link between the two nations. Please stay tuned for more detailed coverage. Telegraph, William Anders, the iconic Apollo 8 astronaut who captured the famous Earthrise photograph, tragically died in a plane crash at the age of 90. The retired Major General in the U.S. Air Force was piloting the aircraft alone when it crashed into the waters of the San Juan Islands in Washington state. His son, Greg Anders, expressed the family's devastation, highlighting his father's exceptional piloting skills. William Anders' Earthrise photo, taken during the first human spaceflight to reach the moon, is credited with sparking the global environmental movement by showing the fragility and isolation of Earth from space. NASA's Administrator Bill Nelson and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly both paid tribute to Anders, emphasizing his profound impact on humanity's perspective of Earth and space exploration. The crash is currently under investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board and the FAA. Yahoo US, William Anders, a NASA astronaut and part of the historic 1968 Apollo 8 mission, died in a plane crash in Washington state. His son, Gregory Anders, confirmed the news, stating that the family is grieving the loss of a great pilot. Anders, who was born in Hong Kong in 1933, graduated from the United States Naval Academy and served as a fighter pilot before joining NASA. He was part of the first crew to orbit the moon and famously captured the Earthrise photograph, which highlighted Earth's smallness and fragility. Anders' contributions to space exploration extended beyond his NASA career, serving as the executive secretary for the National Aeronautics and Space Council and the first chairman of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. His legacy continues to inspire astronauts and explorers worldwide. The Toronto Star, former Apollo 8 astronaut William Anders, known for the iconic Earthrise photo, died in a plane crash off the San Juan Islands in Washington state. His son, Greg Anders, confirmed the tragic news, emphasizing the family's loss. The photograph, taken during the crew's fourth orbit of the moon, was a significant contribution to the space program and the global environmental movement. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson and Arizona Senator Mark Kelly praised Anders for changing humanity's perspective of Earth and space. The Apollo 8 mission was a daring venture that set the stage for the Apollo moon landing. Anders, who was born in Hong Kong in 1933, had a distinguished career in the Air Force and NASA. He and his wife founded the Heritage Flight Museum in Washington, showcasing their commitment to preserving aviation history. The crash is under investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board and the FAA. The Toronto Star. Amid the myriad posters at a Western University student encampment urging its school to divest from Israeli-linked investments, a small one quoting Lu Sun gave Vincent Wong's heart a special lift, triggering memories of his own political awakening during the Tiananmen Square protests in 1989. These historical protests, led by students against corruption and communism, called for socialist democracy and free expression, often quoting Lu Xun, a literary giant whose works also inspired the May 4th movement. This connection underscores how the Students for Gaza movement builds on historical protests like those against the Vietnam War, apartheid in South Africa, and the civil rights movement. The ties also extend to struggles against oppression in China, leading some in the Chinese diaspora to organize for Palestine, highlighting the links between China and Israel and mobilizing to break them. Yale research scholar Yang Yangqing noted that Chinese officials view Israeli counterinsurgency measures as a model for Xinjiang's security regime, with Chinese drones and facial recognition cameras used by Israeli authorities to control Palestinians. The Tiananmen Square protests are remembered for the massacre on June 4, 1989, when the Chinese government deployed 180,000 soldiers who rolled into the square with tanks and armored vehicles, killing hundreds, if not thousands, of its own citizens. Despite differences, there are similarities between the Tiananmen protesters and those fighting for Palestinian rights today, such as escalatory actions after unheeded demands and the vital role of labor support. The Ontario Federation of Labor, along with national unions like COOP and USW, rallied in solidarity with the University of Toronto encampment against a trespass order. Accusations of protesters being influenced by outside agitators are also common, with some Canadian authorities claiming foreign influence without substantiation. Wong, who was deeply impacted by the Tiananmen massacre as an infant in Hong Kong, fled with his parents to Canada. He was inspired to pursue human rights law after attending a candlelight vigil in Hong Kong's Victoria Park in 2010, where he saw speeches from survivors and families of those affected by the massacre. These connections between oppressions in China and Palestine highlight a truth embodied in a popular protest chant: "In our hundreds, in our millions, we are all Palestinians." South China Morning Post: the resignation of two British judges from Hong Kong's top court has stirred concerns about the city's judicial independence, but former Justice Minister Teresa Chingyukhua insists the departures will not compromise the integrity of the judiciary. Lawrence Collins and Jonathan Sumption's exit leaves only 8 overseas non-permanent judges on the Court of Final Appeal, yet Ching emphasizes that judicial independence relies on judges' ability to rule based on evidence and law, not nationality. Despite the political changes and previous resignations, Ching asserts that Hong Kong's rule of law remains robust, supported by the Basic Law and a transparent judicial process. Legal experts like Philip Dykes and Simon Young-Nyman argue that while fewer foreign judges might strain the judicial model, the presence of overseas judges continues to enrich the city's jurisprudence and maintain confidence in its legal system. South China Morning Post: for 73-year-old Pui Sin Kong and many others, the Johor-Singapore Causeway is a vital link that has facilitated daily commutes, trade, and social connections for a century. Opened in 1924, the 1-kilometer causeway was a significant engineering feat that replaced ferry services and connected Singapore and Johor Bahru. Over the years, it has become the busiest international border crossing, with more than 300,000 people using it daily. Despite its role in fostering connectivity and a shared identity, the causeway has also faced challenges, such as wartime destruction and the establishment of an international border in 1965. The causeway has been a barometer of Malaysia-Singapore relations, symbolizing both unity and division. Today, it remains crucial for economic and social interactions, with ongoing efforts to enhance its capacity and efficiency, reflecting the enduring importance of this historic link. South China Morning Post: despite recent setbacks, including the implementation of the Article 23 national security law and the conviction of pro-democracy activists, Hong Kong continues to be a vibrant and unique city deserving of respect. Georgetown University professor Dennis Wilder, who recently returned to Hong Kong with students, highlights the city's resilience and international character. Hong Kong boasts high English proficiency, a significant expatriate population, and a free internet environment, distinguishing it from other Chinese cities. The judiciary upholds world-class standards, and universities remain hubs of intellectual engagement. Wilder suggests that Hong Kongers need prominent local leaders to advocate for their autonomy and a revitalized Cathay Pacific to restore global connectivity. Emphasizing the industrious spirit of Hong Kongers, he calls for international support to ensure the one country, two systems framework thrives, maintaining Hong Kong's unique role in East Asia. South China Morning Post: in Abu Dhabi, hydrogen-powered buses by Chinese startup Wisdom Motor are set to revolutionize the city's transport system, marking a significant milestone in the clean energy revolution. This development is part of a broader collaboration between China and Middle Eastern nations, with China leading in electrolyzer deployment, controlling 50% of global capacity. Electrolyzers are crucial for separating hydrogen and oxygen in water molecules, a key process in the production of green hydrogen. The global shift towards green hydrogen is expected to transform economic ties and geopolitical dynamics, with the market forecast to surpass the value of the liquid natural gas trade by 2030 and potentially reach $1.4 trillion annually by 2050. Countries endowed with renewable energy resources, like Australia, India, and the Middle East, are poised to play significant roles in green hydrogen production, while the US and China are expected to dominate the supply chain due to their technological and resource advantages. The race for green hydrogen is not just about economic gains but also about geopolitical influence, with nations like India potentially acting as bridges between the global north and south. Nikkei Asia, GMT Research, known for its critical analysis of China Evergrande Group, has ceased on-the-ground investigations in mainland China due to the new state secrets law, which has created an uncertain environment for such activities. Analysts Nigel Stevenson and Gilliam Tulloch, who previously conducted in-person visits to Evergrande projects, now find these trips too risky. Evergrande, with $300 billion in liabilities, is in default and faces liquidation. GMT's early investigations revealed dead assets and raised red flags about Evergrande's financial practices, which have since been scrutinized by Chinese regulators. The new state secrets law, which took effect on May 1, includes provisions that could restrict revealing information obtained through due diligence, leading to self-censorship and impacting business operations. The environment in China, including Hong Kong where GMT operates, has changed significantly, with tighter restrictions and increased scrutiny on corporate investigations, making such activities more perilous. South China Morning Post: art exchanges have become a crucial arm of diplomacy between China and the US amidst deepening competition, helping to build trust and start conversations. A notable example is the expansive exhibition in San Francisco, organized with the Hubei Provincial Museum, showcasing over 150 Bronze Age Chinese artifacts. The exhibition, titled Phoenix Kingdoms, The Last Splendor of China's Bronze Age, highlights the continuity and inclusiveness of Chinese civilization. Such cultural exchanges, although fewer in recent years, have historically played a significant role in fostering mutual understanding and respect. Events like the Anyang, China's Ancient City of Kings exhibition have catered to diverse audiences, including school groups, promoting closer relations through shared cultural heritage. Scholars like Emily Wilcox and Gao Minglu emphasize the importance of these exchanges in bridging gaps between the two nations, suggesting that art can transcend political and economic tensions, creating opportunities for dialogue and mutual understanding. CNN. You felt a rush of excitement as she walked into his bar for the first time, eager to meet the charming young host she'd been following online for years. On that cold January night, they chatted over champagne, the first of many meetings that would have you fast falling in love. You, a 41-year-old clinician and divorced mother of two, soon began spending every spare minute with him at the bar in Tokyo's main red light district, dropping thousands of dollars on heavily marked up alcohol. In return, he showered her with attention and small gifts, even promising to buy her a ring. He said, "You are my girlfriend," Yu recounted. But as her money ran out, the host coerced Yu into sex work to pay off the staggering 25 million yen, about $165,000, debt she owed. Yu's story is a chilling example of how some women are exploited in Japan's host clubs, venues that offer male companionship to lonely women. Authorities have struggled to regulate these clubs, which are often linked to organized crime, leading to a surge in cases of extreme debt, exploitation, and sex trafficking, particularly after COVID restrictions were lifted in 2023. South China Morning Post. Carrying 3 lenses, 2 cameras, and a tripod, mainland Chinese tourist Wei Jiala arrived at an unassuming basketball court in Hong Kong's Kennedy Town. The spot, perfect for capturing historic trams against the backdrop of Victoria Harbour, was a tip from Zaya Hongshu, a popular Chinese social media platform. Wei, a beauty industry professional from Shenyang, preferred experiencing local culture over shopping. Guided by the platform's travel strategies, he and his girlfriend explored decades-old residential buildings and iconic filming locations from his favorite Hong Kong film series, Young and Dangerous. Zaya Hongshu, known for its lifestyle tips and travel recommendations, has over 200 million monthly active users, predominantly born in the 1990s. The app has reshaped Hong Kong's tourism landscape, popularizing unorthodox destinations and emphasizing authentic experiences. This shift comes as the city strives to restore visitor numbers to pre-pandemic levels, with the retail sector suffering a 14.7% drop in April year-on-year. The Hong Kong Tourism Board has partnered with Zaya Hongshu, generating over 10,000 posts promoting cultural tourism and new, photogenic sites. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong rower Chiu Hin-chun is gearing up for a David vs. Goliath battle at the Paris Olympics. Competing in the open weight class instead of his usual lightweight category, the 29-year-old will aim to bulk up to 76 kilograms during training, targeting 75 kilograms on race day. Chiu, who won bronze at last year's Asian Games, made history by winning the city's first gold at an international event in the lightweight single sculls at the World Rowing Cup 2 in Luzern. "It's like competing against giants," Chiu said, acknowledging the physical advantages of his European rivals. However, he believes Asians can outsmart them with superior technique. Chiu is determined to surprise his competitors and hopes to reach the top 16 or top 12, a significant achievement for an Asian rower. With a rigorous training schedule mapped out by head coach Kenny Wu Jining, Chiu will undergo strength training in Hong Kong, altitude training in Guiyang, and finally, climate adaptation training in Belgium. Paris will mark his second Olympic appearance, and Chiu is focused on delivering his best performance, having gained valuable experience since his debut in Rio. South China Morning Post. Journalist and true crime podcaster Hedley Thomas has dedicated his career to seeking justice for Australian women murder victims. Born in Texas in 1967 to a Royal Australian Air Force pilot father and a storytelling mother, Thomas grew up in Canberra before moving to Queensland's Gold Coast following his parents' divorce. His early fascination with newspapers and journalism led him to start as a copy boy at the Gold Coast Bulletin, where he quickly rose through the ranks to cover police rounds and expose corruption. His dedication to investigative journalism saw him working in London and Hong Kong before returning to Brisbane. Thomas's most notable work includes the podcast series The Teacher's Pet, which investigated the 1982 disappearance of Lynette Dawson and led to the conviction of her husband, Chris Dawson, for murder in 2022. His podcasting career has since focused on unsolved murders, giving a voice to forgotten victims and making significant impacts in the field of criminal justice. Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Australia's avocado industry is experiencing a boom as the fruit gains popularity in India, creating a lucrative market for Australian farmers. Mumbai cafe owner Ritu Pagarani notes the growing demand for avocado dishes among Indian customers, with grocery stores and street vendors alike capitalizing on this trend. Australia's entry into the Indian market is bolstered by high-quality produce, lower shipping costs, and a new free trade deal that will phase out the 30% tariff on Australian avocados by 2028. Nutritionist Kavita Devgan highlights the health benefits of avocados, particularly in a country with a high prevalence of diabetes. The fruit's versatility is also being explored in traditional Indian cuisine. With Australia producing over 10,500 tons of avocados last financial year, the oversupply issue could be mitigated by the burgeoning Indian market. Exporter Anthony Allen predicts that India could soon become Australia's largest avocado importer, surpassing Hong Kong. This green gold is poised to transform both the Indian diet and the Australian avocado industry. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.